With Amy K YouTube Live, and today I'm going to show you how I made a fun fold card. It's a gatefold card with one of the upcoming items from the online exclusives that'll be available to order starting on September 3rd. So this is a really pretty little bundle called Gathering Moments, and it's actually part of a full suite. So, oh gosh, I'm crazily crooked on here. I was thinking I finally got it on here kind of straight, and then it's not at all. So one of these days I will get it all figured out and then go on here straight, and then probably it'll still be crooked. So, all right. So again, this is the new bundle called Gathering Moments. It's part of a suite of products, and they are beautiful. And yeah, so it's very, very pretty, and do love the stamp set bundle. I love the kind of distinctive images where it gives it a little bit of a layered look when you're stamping it without having to do any extra work. You just ink it up and stamp it, and it's really pretty. So again, it's going to be a gatefold little card here, and then I've got the Gathering Moments stamp set here to show you too. So this is a pretty stamp set. Love the sentiments on here. Love the fonts on the sentiments as well. And it's just got some pretty fall and kind of outdoor images. So hey, Karen and Sally and Carol and Danette, thanks everybody for hopping in. Glad you're here and joining today. So this is the stamp set, and then there's a coordinating set of dies that will cut out all of your little stamped images here. So your leaves, the acorn, the little mushroom, and then these two sets, the greenery piece, and then the little berries. There are dies that will cut all those images out. And then there are these two big, enormous dies. I did use one of these on the background here for my leaf. But these actually are designed, obviously, to work together. And you can just die cut it and have little holes in your leaves. So if you like the look of that, you can do that. Or if you are a person who likes to do a little stitching, these are actually designed to use the linen or the thread that comes in the suite. And you can actually like stitch the leaves if you want to. Now, I am entirely too lazy to do that. I will admit up front that is not something that I enjoy doing. So I will probably not be using these for anything other than I may cut the leaves with them, but I probably will not be doing the stitching ever because, again, like I said, I'm just kind of lazy. So thanks everybody for hopping in. Glad you're here. I see Nisi and Roxanne and Joanna and Sherry and Tanya and Marilyn, Paula. Everybody, thanks for saying hello and for joining today. So again, Gathering Moments is the name of this stamp set bundle. Set those aside. One other thing that I did use on this, go back to my Stylish Shapes dies, which I absolutely love. These have been around for a little while. They're in the annual catalog, and I used this large die to cut out my sentiment, chopped off the end. I'll show you how I did that when I put the card together. But this is the basic set of dies, and they're awesome. If you don't have these, I don't know why you don't have them. You should. Because they're a really awesome set of dies that I use for almost many of my cards. Not every single one, but a lot of them. They're just great sizes, and they cut out lots and lots of things. All right. A couple things before we get going. Don't forget the in-color product sale is going on from through August 31st. So yep, Stylish Shapes are current, Paula. They're in the current annual catalog. So, or if you just go out to the online store and search for Stylish Shapes, it'll pop right up. So, hey, Carol, thanks for joining. So the in-color products are on sale. The 2025 to 2027 in-color products are on sale through the end of August for 15% off. It includes everything like the ink pads, ink refills, markers, cardstock, a couple of card kits, some designer series paper, all sorts of things that contain those colors are going to be on sale for 15% off during the month of August. So make sure you're out there, go grab those items before they're gone and before the end of August. So again, 15% off if you go and purchase them through the Stampin' Up! Online store. So, hey, Debbie and Barbara, thanks for hopping in. I'm glad you like the card, Paula. So, and happy Friday to you as well. So online exclusives, this product is actually from an upcoming online exclusive that'll be starting on September 3rd. So just anytime you're out there checking out the online store, make sure you're taking a peek at those online exclusives so that you can find them by going to StampinUp.com and then clicking on the menu button on the upper left, and then go to the online exclusives, which is one of the little circles right underneath the menu. So anytime you're out there shopping, make sure you look at those. They're not tied to any catalog. They come and go. This is just a very small sampling of some of the items that are out there right now. But like I said, they come and go. So make sure you're checking those out every time you're out and doing a little shopping. So, hey, Debbie, thanks for hopping in. All right, so let's get going on the card. So this is the card base, and it is basic beige, and it is 5.5 by 8 well, I guess 5.5 is this way, by 8.5. So it's your standard sized card base, but it's scored a little differently to create the gatefold. And I guess I probably should have shown you that to begin with. So there's a little belly band that goes on here, and then a gatefold. So it opens up like a gate. So in the middle like that. And then we've got the little belly band that goes with it and slides right over the top of it. So that's the card. So this obviously is scored at a little different spot than a typical card. So it's scored at 2 1/8 inches, and again at 6 3/8 inches. So all the measurements for this are going to be on my blog tomorrow, so don't stress over that. It'll all be in writing out there, so you can hopefully follow along pretty easily as well. Oh, thanks, Tanya. I'm glad you liked the card. So again, basic beige is the card base, 2 1/8 and 6 3/8 inches. And then I've got some designer series paper here. This is, of course, hold on, let me grab the name of the paper. I did not write it down, and I should have. It is the Gathering Together Specialty Designer Series paper. And it's specialty because it's got that little bit of gold in it, a little bit of metallic foiling in it. Hopefully you can see that if the light catches it right on some of the papers in here. Flip side looks like that on this particular panel. So I just took a piece of that paper, and I guess I should put it together this way. It originally, I don't know, I cut them into 1 3/4 by 5 1/8. So these are each 1 3/4, 5 1/8. And then I've got pieces of early espresso cardstock that are cut to, I want to be 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. So again, 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. Lots of quarters and eighths and whatever. Like I said, it's out on my blog. It'll be there tomorrow, Stamp with Amy Kay, and I'll link directly to the blog post once it goes live around 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So you'll be able to find all the measurements again and make sure that what I've said is right, because sometimes I get it all twisted up and I can't remember what's an eighth and what's a quarter and whatever. So just adhering these to the early espresso cardstock panels. And then get the other one done here with a little bit of Stampin' Seal. Uh-oh, the dog is barking at something. Sorry. There's a guy here doing some stuff out in the yard, and so I'm assuming he must have come near enough the door that she's discovered there's someone out there, and now she's going to bark. Hopefully she won't carry on too long. All right, so I've got these. When you put this together, obviously you don't need to keep it. I tried to do mine so that it was kind of a continuous look to the paper. It doesn't really matter because this is such a kind of a, I don't know, lots of leaves all over it. I don't know that anybody's going to notice whether you put them on there in the same order or not. I just kind of like to do that, so that is what I've done. So then I'm going to take these little pieces and we're going to stick these to the card front. And this one is actually going to be the left-hand side of my card, so I want this to be on the left side here. Again, because I want it to look like that when I'm done. So I'm going to take that and center it between, there's a little bit of, I need to get a new trimmer blade apparently. So sorry again, the dog is barking like a crazy dog. So sticking that over here, just centering it between the score line and the edge of the cardstock. And then I'm going to do the same thing over on the opposite side. We're just going to take that and we'll put it like this so that this part of the leaf is going to connect together here in the middle when I close it. So this will be the right side of the card, if that makes sense. It will when I close it, if it doesn't right now. So just going to take this and adhere it to the right side of the card base, which is on the left right now, which is kind of crazy to keep up with. So, all right, again, just roughly centering it and sticking those two on. I'm going to set that aside for just a second while I grab what will be the inside of the card. So I did a little layering on the inside. This is 3 7/8 inches by 5 1/8 inch, and it is basic white cardstock. And then I've got a 4-inch by 5 1/4 inch panel of early espresso cardstock, and we're going to be layering those together once I stamp the images on it, that is. So I've got Cajun Craze ink, and we're just going to ink up the pretty little leaf, Cajun Craze ink, and we'll kind of point it downward. I don't know. I can't even remember exactly how I have it on the inside of my card. I'll probably stamp it completely differently, but that is quite all right. I've got a couple of the mushroom image and the smaller leaf image from the Gathering Moments stamp set, and we've got basic beige ink here. My basic beige ink is really inky. So I find that when I use these distinctive stamps, I have a little trouble with it getting, it looks kind of globby and blobby and not very pretty on there. So if I grab a sponge dauber and just tap over the inked image, then that takes all the extra ink off of it and kind of smooths it out. And then it stamps for me much nicer than it does when I don't do that technique, because I get kind of, I'll stamp it here on scrap paper without, so I don't know how well you can see that, but it's really blobby looking, not very pretty and whatever when I stamp it that way. So that is why I found this little technique. If you grab a sponge dauber and just tap over the top of it, that works best for me when I'm using kind of overly inky ink pads. All right, so got this little leaf we'll stamp here. And so to me, this image looks a lot better than this one does. So again, I can see them better up close than you can. So you may be like, what? I don't see the difference, but you definitely can in person. So, hey, Karen, thanks for hopping in, and Joan as well. All right, now I've got the little acorn image, again, from the Gathering Moments stamp set, and we are going to stamp that in early espresso ink. And we'll take that and maybe we'll turn it about like that. And then we'll put another little acorn right down here. And we're going to call that good for the inside of the card. All right, I'm going to adhere these together with some Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to try not to smudge that ink because sometimes it takes a minute for those, particularly those darker colors like the early espresso, to dry. So I'm going to try not to drag it too much across the paper or drag my fingers across it in the hopes that I don't smear it. And again, we're just going to adhere that to the piece of early espresso cardstock. And then we're going to add a little bit of, look at that, I drove right off the edge. So this is why I don't use liquid glue. I can't even stay on the paper when I'm using Stampin' Seal, much as when I try to use liquid glue and then I have myself glued to the project and project glued to the paper, and yeah, all sorts of bad happens from it. All right, so we're going to take this and we're just going to center it between the two score lines and top to bottom and stick it in. And then I'm going to close it up and just going to grab my little bone folder, give it a good solid crease on either side. And I'll flip it over and probably give it another solid crease here, because gatefolds I do find want to pop back open if I don't really do a good job of creasing them. So there we go. So that is the basic gatefold card. So we got the inside all decorated. Outside's about halfway done. So again, I've got another piece of early espresso cardstock. This one measures 1 5/8 inches by 9.5 inches across. And the 9.5 inches can be, it can be a little longer than that, but I try not to go shorter than 9.5 just because of the way it makes it harder to adhere it together, in my opinion, if I go less than the 9.5 inches. So I'm going to take my card here and I'm going to kind of roughly try to get the cardstock and the card base on here straight to help me fold this over. So I'm creating the belly band now. I'm going to fold it. I don't want to fold it like super tight on here because I want to have a little bit of wiggle room, which hopefully I didn't fold it too tightly. But there we go. Says, why is it not moving? All right. So just taking it and making sure that I've got a little extra room in there. So I'm just kind of pulling it out with my fingers, just trying to not have this be on here super tight so you can't slide it. And now I got to find my Stampin' Seal back again. Oh, thanks, Marilyn. Glad you're liking it. So I'm going to take a little bit of Stampin' Seal and we're going to put it on this flap, a little bit more, and we're going to put it on the opposite flap. If you prefer Seal Plus, you can definitely use that, or tear and tape adhesive. I find for me that Seal, particularly with the way I'm going to layer up this card front, Seal works just fine. So again, I'm just going to check it, make sure that it still slides, which it does. Although it's not quite as loose as my original one was, but that is quite all right. So I've got a piece of basic beige cardstock that is cut to about 4 1/4 by 1.5. I think it's this one. Yep. And we're just going to layer that right over the top of the card front. And then we're going to layer a piece of designer paper over the top of that. So like I said, I use Stampin' Seal on here just because I'm going to put lots and lots of adhesive and layers over the top of it. So I'm not as worried about it coming apart. If the belly band was your only piece that was on there, you may want to consider using something a little stronger, but I do find that Stampin' Seal works pretty well for me. It's one of the stronger adhesives that I have used pretty consistently. All right, so I got that layer on, and then I'm going to grab, this is another piece of the Gathering Together Specialty Designer Series paper, and the Designer Series paper is cut to about 1 3/8 by about 4 1/8. So again, these are all like 1/8 of an inch smaller than each other on all these layers, and I know it's a lot to keep track of, but again, all the PDF will be out on my blog tomorrow, so you'll be able to find all the measurements out there. And ahead of time, I did cut with one of the Gathering Moments dies. I used this big old leaf die and cut another piece of the Gathering Together Designer Series paper. This is the flip side of it. So again, there's a little bit of gold foiling on that you can see. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it right over the center of my card like this. So I want to make sure that when I'm putting the adhesive on, I'm just putting adhesive here and here on my leaf. If I put it up here, I'm going to stick it to the card front, which is not what I want. I want the belly band to be able to slide separately. So again, just going to take that, run a little adhesive here, a little adhesive here. And less is definitely better when it comes to the adhesive for that, just because you don't want to accidentally stick your card closed. And so far so good. It's still sliding, so that's definitely a bonus. All right. Next thing that I did is I stamped the sentiment, and we are going to heat emboss it with gold embossing powder. So I've got my Versamark ink out and my Many Thanks sentiment from the Gathering Moments stamp set. And then again, if these will all be available to order from the online exclusives starting on September 3rd. So everybody will be able to order them then. So I'm just going to stamp the sentiment here and close up my ink pad before I go to the embossing. Going to grab the gold embossing powder. This is from the Metallics embossing powder, or Metallics Wow embossing powders. So it is a pack of 3. You get silver, copper, and gold when you buy the Metallics Wow pack. So this is just the gold one. Close that up before I turn on the heat tool. Ended up with it everywhere. All right, so I'm got the Stampin' Up! Heat tool on here. So there are 2 settings for the Stampin' Up! Heat tool. There's a level 1 setting for drying. So if you're doing something like watercoloring and you don't want to speed up the drying process a little bit, you can use the level 1 setting. It doesn't get quite as hot as the level 2 setting, but it's still hot, so don't put your fingers in front of it. But level 2 setting is a little bit hotter, and that is designed for heat embossing. So I'm just giving the heat tool a second to heat up, and that's why I'm yakking about it. So I'm giving it a second to heat up before I flip it over. And sorry, the dog is barking again. I don't know if you can hear her over the heat tool. So, all right. Once it turns kind of shiny and smooth, then you know that it is done heating. You don't want to burn your embossing powder. You can definitely do that. It will turn kind of dull and brown, and that's just not a very, very good look. So, hey, thanks for hopping in from Canada. So, all right, giving this a second to cool. And I'm going to grab my die here from the Stylish Shapes die, and I'm going to intentionally put it so that there's a little extra space over on the left-hand side, and the right-hand side is pretty close to the spot where it says thanks. So I'm doing this on purpose just based on the way that my card is going to be laid out here. So let me go do the die cutting, and I'll be right back. Okay, see if I can get this done. All right, there we go. Got the sentiment all die cut here. And I'm actually even going to trim a little bit of this off. As you can see on the card front, if I had put it on here, there'd be a little peek of the bottom of the banner. And if you don't mind the way that looks, you can definitely leave it on there, but I trimmed mine off. I just cut like, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of an inch off of this so that it would layer up a little bit nicer on my card front. So you can do whatever you would like with it. So heat embossing had such a nice touch. It is awesome. It's so much fun to do. And you're just like, oh, it never gets old. All right. So I snipped off a little bit of the edge of my sentiment. And then we're going to grab some Stampin' Seal and stick that to the card front. And then we're just going to take this and stick it here on the card front. I did put it down a little bit lower, again, just based on the way that the layout worked for my card. I put it down a little bit lower than halfway, so it's down definitely closer to the bottom. And we will smoosh that down. Then we're going to do a little stamping of the backgroundy images here. So again, I've got my Cajun Craze and Basic Beige. I've got to get all my stamps back over here. So Cajun Craze for the larger leaf image. Try not to wiggle the screen too much here. All right. Then close that one up because that's the only one I need from there. And that is one of those inks that I do end up with everywhere on me when I use it. So Basic Beige is my next one. Where did I put? Here's my sponge dauber. So we're just going to dauber over that again to remove all that excess ink because my Basic Beige ink pad is very overly inky, so it doesn't stamp these images quite as nicely as I would like it to without a little assistance from the sponge dauber. Whoop, that's the acorn, that's not the mushroom. Going to grab the little mushroom image, and again, same thing with that one. Just going to dauber over all of it on the distinctive image. There we go. And then the final couple images are early espresso. Let me grab the acorn and the little berries image. So the berries we're actually going to stamp twice. All right, there's the second one. And then the little acorn we're just going to stamp once. And there you go. We've got all of our images all stamped and ready to go on the card front. And I would say I'm going to go die cut these. Well, let me grab the dies here. So these are the dies that are going to fit around the images. So we've got the little mushroom here. This one, there actually are 2 of the berry dies, which is nice. If you're wanting to cut multiples of these, it does make it definitely go faster if you can cut 2 at a time. And then we've got our little acorn. And then this is the larger leaf die. And there is another kind of leafy image in the stamp set that coordinates with this one, but I didn't use it on my card. With the magic of television, just because I knew that it takes a minute to run through the die cutting machine a couple times trying to get these all cut, I did the pre-cutting of them. So just wanted to show you what dies I'd use though. And ta-da, they're all die cut. So, like I said, it's a little boring watching me, I know, just sit there and die cut things over and over again. So I'm going to start with a couple glue dots here, and I'm going to tuck in, actually I'm going to start with tying the thread first. So I've got linen thread. This is from the Early Espresso and Old Olive linen thread pack. This is one of the new items that will be coming also as part of this suite, but it'll be available to order on September 3rd with all the other goodies here. So that's yay. Always loving linen thread in the neutral colors especially. I find I use tons of it. So, all right, got these tying a little bow here. So, all right, and snipping that off. So get this out of the way. And then I'm just going to take it and I'm going to adhere it kind of around my sentiment on the card front. Generally, I know I want it to be over on this side, and we'll layer up the die cuts over the top of it. So we're going to take a little glue dot and stick that down here. And then the first one I'm actually going to stick on is going to be this large leaf. And then based on where that one lands, that's kind of where I'll layer everything else underneath or on top of it is what I was trying to say. So I'm going to grab some of my little snipped up Stampin' Dimensionals. We're going to put one down near the bottom and one up here towards the top. And I'm not overloading it with Stampin' Dimensionals just because I don't want to end up with it accidentally with a Stampin' Dimensional either in a spot where I want to slide something underneath it, which I may still, but there's an easy way to fix it. And I also don't want a Stampin' Dimensional right on top of that linen thread on the card front. So, all right, so let me grab one of my little berries images, and we're going to take that and tuck it up here underneath on this side. And then we will take the little mushroom image, and we're going to tuck that one here sort of underneath the linen thread and underneath the leaf here, making sure that you can still see my sentiment. And then we've got the larger, well, medium-sized leaf, I guess is what we'll call it. I'm going to grab a couple glue dots for that one. We're just going to layer that right over the top of the Cajun Craze leaf. Get out of the way, silly thing. All right, go like that. And then we've got another little set of berries that we're going to tuck down here underneath. Again, just using little glue dots to tuck these in and around. And then the final one is going to be the little acorn here, and we will stick that one on with a glue dot right over the top of the 2 leaves, kind of sticking those together in the center. And that's it for the layering of the leaves. So I think it's really pretty. I love this stamp set. I love the way the leaves stamp in it. It's really pretty, and I do love all things fall, so this is always, it's always my favorite. Anything fall is always my favorite. So, all right, we're going to grab a couple of the, I should tell you, these are the Cajun Craze and Gold dots. And again, these are all part of that same suite that'll be available to order starting on the 3rd of September. We're going to take one of the little gems and stick it there on top of the mushroom. Take a littler one here, and we'll put it up here on top of that leaf. And then we've got the medium-sized one, and we'll stick that kind of down here, roughly like that. Maybe we'll scooch it over just a little. I don't know. Something like that. And that's it. So the card is all done. So it's only been about 20 minutes, even with all my yakking, 25 minutes, and the card's all done. So this one is actually pretty quick and easy to do. The die cutting definitely takes the longest on it. But yeah, it's really quick, really simple. And I love the little belly band on it. So again, belly band slides off. You've got your card like this, got your little belly band. The only thing you have to be a little aware of is just making sure that you don't glue anything to the card front accidentally. You want to make sure as you're adhering things that your belly band still slides, which mine does. So yay, that's always a success. And then got the inside of the card with just a few little leaves stamped on it as well. So quick and easy. Thanks everybody for joining today. I appreciate you being here. I will plan to be live around 2 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday, and then again around 2 o'clock Eastern time next week, Friday. And then the week after that, I can't even believe my younger daughter is back in school, so we should be back on the regular school schedule around 2 o'clock Eastern time every day. But yeah, I'll plan to see you all then. Again, the details for this will be posted on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com, and I'll be putting the link to it once the blog post goes live around 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And there will be a printable PDF tutorial, all the cardstock cuts, cardstocks that I used, inks that I used, all that good stuff will be posted out there. So thanks everybody for joining. I appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll plan to see you on Tuesday.